Okay, good afternoon, students. Good afternoon. In our last class, we completed origin of caste system and its evolution, and some more concept which are in our second module of Dalit movements. Okay, before going to the caste system in colonial India, we see how colonialism colonialism's impact on education, basically. Okay, so due to education only, many people in the society, they were aware. Okay, so how the colonialism given scope to development of education, Western education, how this Western education impact on the Indian society towards their awareness. Okay, so awareness among the unequal Indian society. Okay, so I will give you the various things uh, 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 today about education, how this leads to uh, mobilize of Indian society particularly. Okay, so then tomorrow I will give you about the caste system. Within the caste system, how lower class aware with the help of Christian missionaries. Okay, today I will with the colonialism and education in colonial India, right? So the establishment of British territorial control over India brought changes in different spheres of life. Education was one of such areas where lot of changes came with the transfer of power to the British. Development of English education, which is impact of British policy, has also been discussed in this lecture, and also find a discussion on the practice of indigenous education in the country. It is essential to understand the dynamics of relationship between the education and colonialism in order to understand the development of education under the colonial rule. Economic and political control over the colonial country is essential for survival of colonial rule, and education is used to achieve this goal. Attempt is made to develop through education a new set of values and justification of the colonial. Thus, education loses its independence, identity, and becomes subordinate to political power. Colonial education no doubt brings changes and cultural transformation in colonial country. New ideas and experiments undoubtedly enrich the existing knowledge, but the colonial country has to pay a heavy price for it. The real beneficiaries of colonial education are a selected few who had a specific role, specific specific role assigned by the colonial rulers in the continuation of the colonial rule. Colonial education is meant for the better control of colonial country rather than its development. The ultimate outcome of this policy might be different, but the desired uh, object is to control, not to change the colonial country. In the background of this view, regarding dynamics of relationship between the colonial rule and education, we shall look at the development of English education in India. However, before we come to the beginning of English education, let us take a look at the indigenous system of education in the early 80s. Okay, so before going to the English education or Western education in colonial India, just we'll look a glance on the indigenous education, how the native education system is at colonial India. Okay, so the information that we gather from early British records give us very rough idea about indigenous system of education in late 19th and 19th, 18th and 19th centuries. There were madrasas, maktas for the Muslims, and toll patshalas for Hindus. Okay, patshala is nothing but a certain ashramas. Okay, these range from the centers for higher learning in Arabic and Sanskrit to lower levels of institution for schooling people in Persian and vernacular language. Lack of scientific and secular learning was one of the major limitations of the centers for higher learning in those days. However, many Hindus attended Persian schools because Persian was then the court language, and there were also Hindu teachers in Persian schools. Whether it was a toll or a madrasa, there were certain common features in the indigenous system of education. Schools were generally run with the help of contribution from the Jamindars or from local rich men. In the curriculum, the main emphasis was on classical language like Sanskrit, Arabic, and Persian, and subjects of classical Hindu or Islamic traditions like grammar, logic, law, metaphysics, and medicines, etc. Though Sanskrit language was an exclusive domain of the Brahmins, from the reports available of the early 19th century, we find that the non-upper caste and scheduled caste had also representation in the lower level schools. Women were generally debarred from the formal education system. In the absence, the printing press till 19th century, oral tradition and memory of teachers formed the basis of knowledge and information, supplemented with handwritten manuscript. The state had little or no role in school education, though kings would patronize people famous for their learning. Besides the centers for higher learning, which were basically the domain of upper caste, there was a large number of elementary schools. Most of the villages in India had this kind of elementary schools. These were each run by the individual teacher with the monetary help of the village zemindar or a local elite or a rich man. These schools used to teach the students elementary arithmetic and basic literacy to meet the needs of the day-to-day life. Students from different sections of the society, except the very backward, disprivileged caste, attended these schools. Thus, education system that existed in India in the early 19th century had its own merits and demerits. The elementary schools provided the opportunity for basic education to rural people, and its curriculum was secular in approach and response to practical needs. Probably in the higher centers of learning, that is like tolls or madrasas, too much emphasis on the necessities of grammar, philosophy, and religion narrowed down the scope of expansion of secular and scientific knowledge. The colonial rulers discarded the indigenous system and replaced it by a system of education of their own. Okay, so when the Britishers started their ruling on behalf of East India Company and behalf of British government, they started certain modifications in the education system. Okay, they totally encouraged discouraged the Indian native education system, and they started the Western mode of education system, and they started educations on the basis of model of European schools and colleges. Okay, so the colonial rulers discarded the indigenous system and replaced it by a system of education of their own in the sense on the basis of European model. Okay, so the potential that the indigenous system had as a means of mass education was destroyed. In the following section, we would see how controversies started among different groups about what should be the role of East India Company in the development of education in India. Okay, so I'll see how the education policy followed by the Britishers. Okay, so immediately after the acquisition of political power in India, the company officials wanted to maintain neutrality or non-intervention in the sphere of religion and culture of the indigenous society. The reason behind it was partly the fear of adverse reaction and opposition to their rule by the local people. However, constant pressure from different quarters, the missionaries, the liberals, the Orientalists, and utilitarians compelled the company to give up its policy neutrality and take responsibility of promotion of learning. The second important point around which the opinions were sharply divided was whether the company should promote Western or Oriental learning. In the initial stage, the company officials patronized Oriental learning. It cannot be denied that some of the Englishmen had a genuine desire to acquire and promote Oriental learning. In this context, we may mention the establishment of Calcutta Madrasa by Warren Hastings in 1781, sorry, and Benares Sanskrit College by Jonathan Duncan in 1791, and the Asiatic Society of Bengal by William Jones 1784. Those who were in favor of continuation of the existing institutions of Oriental learning and promotion of Indian classical tradition were called Orientalists. The argument put forward by the Orientalists was that generally there was a prejudice among Indians against European knowledge and science. So so there might be complete rejection of Western knowledge. Some of them were also interested to explore the classical tradition and culture of this ancient civilization. Okay, but even we acknowledge the genuine desire of some of the Englishmen for promotion of Oriental culture. There is no doubt that the Orientalists were guided by some practical consideration. They wanted to teach the British officials the local language and culture so that would be better at their job. Okay, so this was a prime behind the foundation of Fort William at Calcutta in 1800. The other motive was to develop a friendly relation with the elites of the indigenous society and to understand their culture. This was the main reason behind the establishment of Calcutta Madrasa and Benares Sanskrit College. There was a strong opposition to this Oriental approach by different groups in England, the evangelicals, the liberals, and utilitarians. The new cultural ethos that developed in England with the industrial revolution was highly critical of the company's monopoly trade. Post industrial revolution saw the little of value behind modern Western culture. The evangelicals had firm conviction in the superiority of Christian ideas and Western institutions. Two great exponents of evangelical view were Charles Grant and William Wilberforce. Okay, others who did not share evangelical faith also were convinced of the superiority of Western knowledge, and one of the chief promoters of this idea was Thomas Bovington Macaulay. Okay, so he recommended that Western learning should be promoted in India through English language, and this should be the objective of education policy in India. James Mill, the chief advocate of utilitarianism in India, was highly critical of Indian religion and culture. Okay, so you are well aware that I already discussed with in our previous semesters that regarding the utilitarian school of historians and imperialist and colonial school of historians and nationalist school of historians and Marxist school of historians and subaltern school and feminist school of historians. Okay, so among them, utilitarian of school of historians are a Orientalist school of historians who are a liberal European nationalist or European a group of historians who supported Indians greatly. Okay, so they done a excellent contribution to the Indian study of Indian history is that they rearranged, reconstructed the Indian history on the basis of chronological order. Okay, so they done a much contribution to the Indian history. Okay, so after them, the Macaulay, Charles Grant, and Hunter, Charles Woods, many individuals has contributed towards English education in India. Okay, so that English education became a boost for Indians, particularly the lower class sections who learned many things other than Indian society. Okay, so which is also the English learned the lower classes are having or got a income with the help of certain employment opportunities which provided by the East India Company officials and also the British Indian government. Okay, so likewise, there are new class of section, new class in the Indian society has emerged, and we already discussed about that a new class, nothing but a middle class. Okay, so how from the middle class the intellectual class has emerged, how the intelligentsia which mobilized the Indian society with their socio-religious reform organizations. Okay, so they particularly opposed and rejected, and they tried to abolish the various social levels in the society, and they want to see Indian society as a egalitarian society, equal society. Okay, so I will move with Macaulay. Okay, so Macaulay recommended that Western learning should be promoted in India through English language, and this should be the objective of education policy in India. James Mill, the chief advocate of totalitarianism in India, was highly critical of Indian religion and culture. But he believed that education alone was not sufficient to bring desired transformation in India. Okay, so legislative and administrative reforms were also essential for this purpose. In brief, all of these groups who may be called Anglicans, sorry, Anglicists in general believed that Indians were in backward stage and Western education given through English language alone was the remedy. Okay, so the Anglicists who recommended the English language may be the remedy for the Indians to aware about their education. Okay, so through the English education only they can mobilize and they get certain educational opportunities. Okay, so they strongly believe. But education was expensive. Therefore, it was better to educate a group of people who would gradually educate the rest of the society. Okay, so education would filter down from the elites to the masses. In this way, it would help to develop new cultural values and knowledge in India. This was after called the downward filtration theory. Okay, so according to downward filtration theory, those who educated, they can educated with they can be educated their families and the next generations also. Okay, so that one educated men may be aware their own family for another generations. Okay, so that's we call it the downward filtration. Okay, so the missionaries had a completely different logic of supporting the introduction of English education in India. The motive of missionaries was to get access to the indigenous society through education and to propagate new cultural values which would help them in conversion of people to Christianity. These, the response of Indians to this debate over education on policy was mixed one. Ram Mohan Rai and others favored introduction of Western education with the belief that it would help Indians assimilate the knowledge of Western science, racialism, new ideas of literature, This would help the regeneration of the country. Some other people believe that knowledge of Western education, especially the knowledge of English, would help them getting the jobs and coming close to the ruling elite. So they were in support of Western education. In opposition to this, there were many conservatives who were staunch supporters of Indian classical language and culture. They had the apprehension that introduction of the Western education would lead to the collapse of indigenous society and culture. Thus, there were thus um, uh, uh, thus, they had Western collapsed indigenous society and culture. Thus, there were different shades of opinion among the Europeans as well as Indians about the role of company in development of education in India. Let us see in the next para or next class how the major the developments has taken place in the field of education, particularly during the colonial period. Okay, so this is the main reason. Due to the efforts of the utilitarians or Orientalists and other colonial experts or educationalists who brought who brought various changes in the field of education, and those helped to the Indian society a lot. How the majority part of Indians aware through this followed and aware through the English education, and by the English education and the Western system of education, the educated Indians who aware among themselves and also tried to aware the whole society, and they mobilized the Indians towards the various social evils and various unwanted rituals which are prevailed in Indian society at that time. Okay, so finally, I want to conclude that the spread of English education in India was a long process, and before 1857, its spread with depth were limited. Okay, so before 1857, the spread of English education very limited. Okay, so because you are well aware that in 1813, Charter Act was the first act. The how that how the Indian English Britishers were concentrate on English education. Okay, so development of education. Okay, this is the first act. By the act, they spent nearly 1 lakh rupees on development of education. Okay, so then 1813 Charter Act, they were also supported the education in India with some more amount. Okay, so in 1853, there are another uh, uh, before 1853, after 1833 Act, in 1835, the William Bentinck, who made English as a medium of instruction in the place of Arabic. Okay, so and also English made a official language in various ports. Okay, so that is the stepping stone for the development of English education in India. Okay, so after that, there are many important things happened. Okay, so Lord Macaulay, a law member who was a great supporter of development of English education in India. Okay, then 1854 Woods Dispatch, according to Dispatch, higher education got a boost, and many training schools and colleges have started. Okay, so teacher training schools and colleges have started according to 1854 Woods Dispatch, and according to Woods Dispatch, the British decided to establish three important universities at Bombay, Kolkata, and Madras. Okay, so for technical education, Woods Dispatch given a great support. Okay, so likewise, the technical education also started in India according to the Woods Dispatch. Okay, so then 19 in 1904 Universities Act during the Lord Curzon's rule, these three universities already which is already established in India, and along with these three universities, another one or two universities also started. Okay, so likewise, another under commission and many other committees also which given a scope for development of English education in India, so that on other side the Christian missionaries Christian missionaries through their evangelical contribution, they mobilized the masses particularly. Okay, so lower class masses, they were aware with these missionary activities of these missionary activities. Okay, so likewise, these Christian missionaries which provided many basic needs at a free of cost, and they provided economical assistance to these lower classes in Indian society. Okay, so the main motive of the Christian missionaries was the white man's burden. Okay, so according to white man's burden, they want to civilize the uncivilized in the world. Okay, so in the process, they mobilized Indian lower class masses, and they educated basically these lower classes and from the poor background, they got certain income levels. Okay, so that they educated and they aware, and later they also educated their families and next generations. Okay, so likewise, they had the opportunity to get the various things which are happened in India, sorry, in the world other than India at that time. Okay, so many they are aware with many revolutions at that time, and they are aware with the industrial revolution. Okay, so with the industrial revolution, many manufacturing unit factories are started. These factories and manufacturing units provided opportunities these educated personality to work, and East India Company offered many employment opportunities to these lower class masses, those who know the English, and they selected them as a dubasis or gubastas or clerks like that. Okay, sometimes as translators. Okay, so these lower class masses got certain economical opportunities, so that their standard of living has increased. Okay, so finally I conclude. So the spread of English education in India was a long process, and before 1857, its spread and depth were limited. Nonetheless, the changes that came in education up to the 1857 deserve a close scrutiny. There was no doubt that new education broadened the origin of knowledge, especially the establishment of printing press and easy availability of books removed the traditional barriers and influenced the younger generation of the indigenous society, and they began to question the existing traditional values. A new spirit of nationalism developed. However, these positive contributions have to be balanced against the grave limitations of the education system that developed under the colonial sponsorship. The English education system totally ignored the importance of mass education. In the indigenous system, the elementary schools provided basic education to wide section of the society. It in the new education of the emphasis was to educate a selected few. The Anglicis idea of filtering down education from elites to masses did not work in practice. The system did not provide equal access to education to all, and this led to the perpetuations of the backwardness of the socially backward caste and communities. Okay, so the existing divisions in the society widened. Secondly, in spite of the advocacy, Western science and technology in the curriculum of schools and colleges, the emphasis was on Western literature, philosophy, and humanities. Technology and natural science were neglected, and without such knowledge, the intellectual advancement as well as economic development of country was hampered. Another aspect of this new education was subordination of education to the political power. Whether it is Orientalist or analysis, the basic objective of their education policy was to strengthen the colonial rule. The Orientalists wanted to do through the Indianization, and the analysts want to do through the Westernization. The basic purpose of the education policy was inseparable from the political interests of the colonial government. Thus, we have seen the education became an issue of debate among various schools of thought. The education policy in the first half of 19th century was a product of this class of opinions. Okay, so on the whole, the colonial administration was keen to promote an education policy which served as our own interests. Okay, so because of their own European interest only, various developments in education are set up in India. So these are various things regarding the education, English and Western education in India, which provided a opportunity for the lower sections in the Indian society to aware themselves, and they known various revolutions and movements which taken place at that time. Okay, so which are a basic for later themselves to aware, and they started Dalit movements in Indian history. Okay, so these are about Western education and colonialism. Okay, so you have any doubt, you may welcome to ask now. Yadagiri,
No, sir.
any doubt?
No, no, sir.
Okay, right. Shall I end up my class?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll ending my class now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.